All right, so you want to be a motivational coach.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, you've really been hitting the books, haven't you?
A lot of great stuff here.
We've got business startup guides, branding articles, even like some personal development classics in the mix.
Those are important too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is serious research you've been doing.
Yeah. Not messing around.
And luckily, expert speaker is here to help us sift through it all
Let's do it.
and figure out how to build this motivational coaching business of yours.
Love it. What I see right away is you're not looking for some like get rich quick scheme.
Right.
This is about like sustainable business, right?
Exactly.
You've got stuff here about financial planning, which like that's music to my ears.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the first things I wanted to dig into because we keep seeing this theme, this don't quit your day job just yet advice. And it seems counterintuitive, right? Like you want to be a motivational coach, you got to go all in, right?
Yeah.
But so many of these sources are saying like pump the brakes a little bit, have that stability.
It's huge, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like having that safety net, not even just financially, right?
Right.
Emotionally, because look, building a business, any business, it's a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
Not a joyride.
Yeah.
You need all the support you can get. And in those early days when you're like grinding away after work, building your client base,
Right.
that stability can be everything.
Yeah. Did you have those moments when you were first starting out?
Oh, are you kidding?
I mean, come on. I want to hear a story.
So many.
Yeah.
Let's just say there was a point where I almost jumped ship way too soon.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I had a mentor who like talked me off the ledge, basically.
Yeah.
And reminded me, slow and steady wins the race. Like sticking to that routine, even when it felt like tedious, it ended up being like the best decision I ever made.
It's like laying the foundation before you build a skyscraper.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so speaking of foundations, let's talk about pricing.
Okay.
Because you've got a ton of notes here about pricing.
It's so important.
And it seems like you're already sensing what our sources are saying, which is like finding the right price is it's a bit of a game.
Yeah, you've got to kind of feel it out. Like the price is right, but it takes experiments, to quote one of your sources.
I like that.
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to approach this?
Well, like step one,
Yeah.
you got to figure out your break-even point. Like what's that magic number
Right.
where the money coming in covers all the money going out?
And one of your sources actually had a really like concrete example, which I thought would be helpful. This is from Start Your Own Coaching Business, the book.
Yeah, good one.
Let's say, just for the sake of argument,
Okay.
that your monthly business expenses are $3,000.
Okay, $3,000. Got it.
Right. And you're aiming to take on like 8 clients a month, which, starting out
feels doable.
feels doable. Right.
Yeah.
So to break even, that means each client needs to be bringing in what, $375 a month?
Yeah. You're not going to slap a $375 price tag on every single coaching session, are you?
Unless you are offering some like seriously life-altering wisdom
Right.
in like under an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is where like understanding the value you offer
Right.
is so key.
Okay.
And, you have some notes here about packaging your services, right?
Right.
So let's say you offer like, I don't know, a 5-hour coaching package
Okay.
delivered over a month.
Right.
That means to hit that break-even point, you need to charge $75 an hour.
Okay. All right. So that's starting to
It's
feel
all more real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is where the educated part of it, educated trial and error comes in.
And
Because we haven't even talked about the psychology of pricing, which like a couple of your articles go deep on this.
oh, yeah, it's fascinating.
And it's so interesting because it's not just about the numbers, right?
Yeah.
It's about how people perceive value.
100%.
So how do we even wrap our heads around that?
Well, I mean, think about it. It's like how you position yourself,
Okay.
the niche you target, the
Right.
results you promise. All these things play into like what people are willing to pay.
Right.
Like it's about finding that sweet spot where your ideal client is like, yes, this is worth it.
Right.
I'm happy to invest in this.
And that actually is a perfect transition because now we're talking about your ideal client, which like you've got a whole section here on niching down, and rightfully so, because one article, I think it was called The Kiss of Death for Motivational Coaches.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It's basically like if you're trying to be everything to everyone,
Right.
You're going to be nothing to no one.
You're going to be so frustrated too.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
It all comes back to, what we were just talking about, like differentiation. One of your sources put it perfectly. If you're trying to compete with Tony Robbins on day one, you've already lost.
Right.
It's like, come on.
You got to carve out your little corner of the market.
Your own lane, yeah.
Yeah.
Be the expert in something.
Become the go-to expert, and you've got to be ruthless about defining who that is.
For sure.
And there was one article, it had this fill-in-the-blank exercise, which I thought was kind of cheesy, but also kind of brilliant.
I love those.
Right. It said, my ideal client is a blank who is struggling with a blank and desperately needs help with blank.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
It makes you think.
It makes you think. So have you thought about who that is for you?
I mean, yeah, it's more than just filling in the blanks, though, right? It's like you really got to understand their pain points,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What's keeping them up at night?
Yeah.
What are they like? What are they really hoping for? What are those big aspirations?
Mm-hmm.
And one of your sources, the one about, I think it was target marketing, they had this great line. They said, your ideal client should see your offer and think, finally, someone who gets me.
Right.
Like, that's what you want?
It's like you're speaking their language,
Yeah.
solving a problem they didn't even know could be solved. And, that kind of brings us to this other big theme that keeps coming up in your research, which is like building that credibility.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where things get like really interesting, because one of your source, I think it was the Coaching Authority Blueprint, made this very bold statement, which is, if you don't have a book, you're not a real coach. Which, like,
Evocative.
it gets your attention. It gets your attention. Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's about like establishing yourself as the expert.
Yeah.
You're not just talking the talk. You've literally written the book on this.
Right. And, it even reminded me of that study we were looking at earlier, the one about consumer trust.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where they found that people are more likely to trust an expert with a book.
Even if they've never read it.
Even if they haven't read it.
It's wild.
Which is so fascinating, right?
It is. Like, it's that psychological trigger,
Totally.
It's like, okay, this person, they took the time, they invested the energy.
Right.
They clearly know what they're talking about.
And it's a marketing tool in itself, right?
Sure.
It's like, how they say dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Yeah.
For coaches, it's write the book for the clients you want, not the clients you have.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
Take it. It's yours. But, I do think there's like a part of this that feels kind of daunting, right?
Oh, totally.
Because writing a book, it's a big undertaking.
Especially when you're like already feeling pulled in a million directions.
Right.
Trying to get this business off the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we reframe that?
Well, what if like instead of seeing it as this big scary thing, this like monumental project, you think of it as like a way to, first of all, just organize your own thoughts.
Okay.
Like get clear on what your unique perspective is, and then create something, a resource that your ideal client, that person we were just talking about,
right,
they would be so stoked to get their hands on.
Right.
It's less about writing a book and more about serving your niche.
Right. Like sharing your wisdom in a really tangible way.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. And I mean, let's be real too, like having a book under your belt, whether it's self-published, traditionally published, whatever.
Yeah.
It elevates your brand.
Oh, yeah.
It shows that you're serious.
It gives potential clients something tangible.
You're not just selling sessions. You're selling like your expertise, your IP, your intellectual property.
Right.
It's different.
Okay, so we've got the book. We're clear on the niche. We kind of have a sense of the pricing. Now we got to talk about like actually running this business.
The nitty gritty.
The behind the scenes stuff, the systems.
The systems, yeah.
And you've got a ton of sources here about this.
It's key.
And this is where I think a lot of like, creative entrepreneurs, they get tripped up, right?
Yeah, because it feels very unsexy at first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to think about that. I just want to like coach people. But your sources are very clear on this. Systems equals sustainability.
Right.
One of them even said, like, think of it as like having a business in a box.
I love that analogy because it makes it feel manageable, right? It's not this like amorphous, overwhelming thing.
It's a box. You can handle a box.
Right, exactly. So like what would be in your business in a box? What are the essentials?
Well, you've got some great excerpts here about creating like a company operations handbook, which I know sounds so boring.
Right.
But like Think of it as your business Bible.
Okay.
It outlines everything. Like, how does a potential client actually become a paying client?
Right. That whole process.
How are you managing your schedule? What are you literally doing every day to market your services?
Okay.
Yeah, it takes the guesswork out of it.
Right. It's like you're not scrambling every day trying to like reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. And then you're not like, 2 weeks in, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This is too much. Remember that article you flagged about burnout?
Oh, yeah.
Like, systems are the antidote to that because the more you can kind of automate and systematize those repetitive tasks,
right,
the more mental bandwidth you have for like the actual coaching.
Right. The stuff that lights you up.
Exactly. The creative.
And I mean, even something as simple as contact management, right?
Oh, yes.
Like that was a big one that came up in your research. You've got to have a way to keep track of every person.
All those business cards.
Right. Like from potential clients to referral partners to like the guy at the coffee shop who's like, I love motivational coaching. Tell me more.
Write it down. Because it's not just about like collecting names, right?
Yeah.
It's about nurturing those relationships over time.
Right.
Your sources even had some cool tips about like segmenting your contact list.
Oh, yeah.
So you're not sending like buy my coaching package emails to someone who like just gave you their business card at a networking event,
It's about staying top of mind without being obnoxious.
Exactly.
Like you're strategically building those connections.
Exactly. Because you never know where your next client's going to come from or your next great collaboration. And speaking of collaboration, you actually had some stuff in here about building a team.
Right.
Which, I mean, let's be honest, even the most systemized solopreneur, at a certain point, you hit a wall, you're like, I need help.
Right. You can't do everything yourself.
No. And one of your sources, I think the one with all the case studies, made a really good point.
Okay.
They said hiring too late is like the number one regret we hear from successful entrepreneurs.
Because it's not even just about like freeing up your time.
It's about bringing in expertise that you don't have.
Totally. I mean, I think about when I first started this podcast.
Oh, yeah. What almost went disastrously wrong? Spill the tea.
Let's just say I tried to edit my own audio for the first few episodes.
I'll go.
It was rough. Let's just leave it at that.
They're like, we're not going to share those early versions with anybody.
No, those are locked in a vault somewhere. Hiring an audio editor, game changer. Because then I could focus on like the stuff I'm good at, the interviewing, the research.
The deep dive.
The deep dives, right.
Yeah, exactly. You were already internalizing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Before you even knew it.
Right.
It's funny how that works. But here's the thing that really struck me, as we were going through all your research and, we're talking about the practical stuff, business building, all of that.
Right.
There's this whole other layer here, which is like the inner game of entrepreneurship.
Oh, 100%. And you had all those like personal development books like sprinkled throughout your stack, which I love.
Natural reading.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Classic, one of your picks.
So good.
They say private victories precede public victories.
100%.
Right? Like you can't build a successful business if you haven't done the work on yourself.
It's so true.
It's so true. And I mean, entrepreneurship, it tests you.
Oh, tell me about it.
In ways that you'd never expect.
Every single day.
Right.
You get a crash course in resilience.
Because you've got those moments of self-doubt. You've got the fear of failure, the pressure to succeed.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. You got to have those tools.
Yeah. What about like mindset, right? Another one of your picks.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Like fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Which one serves an entrepreneur better? I'm going to go with growth mindset on that one.
100%.
Because if you're not constantly learning, evolving, embracing challenges, you're not going to make it.
You're going to get steamrolled.
Okay. So as we're like wrapping up this deep dive, I keep coming back to this one question that like, I feel like it came up in your research.
Okay.
But it never got explicitly answered.
Lay it on me. What's the question?
What if this motivational coaching business, it's not just about helping other people achieve their dreams.
Okay.
It's also about you achieving yours.
I love that.
Because this whole journey, right, from writing the book to building the systems to like actually coaching those clients, it's transformative.
It is. It totally.
It pushes you out of your comfort zone. You got to confront those limiting beliefs.
All the stuff you've been avoiding.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I feel like it helps you step into your full potential.
I love that.
So yeah, it's about guiding others, but it's also about like your own growth.
Your own journey.
Your own evolution.
Amazing.
That's something to be incredibly motivated by.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.